You're winning. You're winning. You're winning.
If you have a birthday coming up, or maybe you'd just like to do something for the greater good, please consider starting a personal fundraiser on Facebook and selecting ACEs Matter as your cause. Need a reason? Well, we have 3 just for you. ACEs Matter helps families in need cover the cost of mental health services. ACEs Matter hires local contractors and even stay-at-home parents who need flexible work schedules. We care about humanity, and ACEs Matter provides free training and education to those who've been affected by childhood trauma. It's easy to set up a donation campaign from your Facebook account. From your phone or internet browser, type or search www.facebook.com/fundraisers. Select nonprofit, search for ACEs Matter, type in how much money you'd like to raise, choose an end date, give your fundraiser a catchy title, edit the default description if you'd like, then click Create. Congratulations! Now you can invite your friends, share on your timeline, and raise money for a great cause. For every ACE story told, an ACE can be prevented. 2 heartbeats from our house to yours.
ACEs Matter is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. EIN 85-124-6674.
Welcome to a very special episode of Epic Understanding. I'm so happy to be with you here this Sunday. Guys, I have the crew, the Connection Committee from ACEs Matter. You guys know how much I love this organization. And today, I have the president, CEO, and founder, Cendie Stanford herself. She has helped so many people, and she is doing it one heart at a time. So without further ado, welcome, Cendie. How are you?
I am living my healed life. Healing life.
Healed. Can
I'm
that be
living
the
my-
word of the day? Can that be part of the lexicon of today?
Yeah, I think we should definitely frame that one. And I put an ED on it, Erica, because for me, I think healing is an ongoing process.
Yes.
That's my awakening. But there's certain areas in your life where you can add the ED to it, right? Like
Mhm.
I know my value now. So like that's an area of life that I feel like has been healed. No Band-Aid needed anymore. Like that wound is like covered up and I know how to deal with it moving forward if that pop quiz was to present itself again into me in life. So yeah, healed.
Healed. I love it. I love it. But you didn't come along. You
I
have formed the Connection Committee. Who are you bringing up for us today?
Well, with the Connection Committee, I want to first go by saying that these ladies had a lot in common in terms of the problem that we want to solve at ACEs Matter. And the people that you're going to meet tonight on the Connection Committee, they're the heart and soul of this program of bringing awareness to ACEs. So they're the backbone. They're helping with not only the love that we pour into what we offer, but also the structural things that have to happen to make us available to people. So first, I want to bring up the person in the Connection Committee that helped me get this started. She has been my advisory board coach ever since I launched ACEs Matter and like started to get my board underway. She has not only been a friend, but a confidant in this work of building ACEs Matter. And she was one of the first people that I told my vision to, and she was one of the first people to say, go, go, go.
All right.
That is Jessie Graham of Jessie Graham Coaching and Consulting.
Welcome, Jessie.
Thank you. It's such an honor to be here with you.
And you want to know what? Let me just thank you personally for being the type of friend that says, go get it. And I'm going to walk with you. I'm going to bring my expertise and I'm going to help you with this vision. I don't know everything that's in your head, but I know what's in your heart. So I am going to support you. Thank you, Jessie.
Oh, it's what we do. This is how connection cures.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you've had the pleasure to be along Cindy's side the whole time. So you know the women of the Connection Committee very well. Who would you like to bring up?
I would love to bring on Tiffany West. She is a spirit of healing, emotional healing that
Mhm.
we need her. We all need her. Even
All
the
right.
Connection Committee needs her.
All right. All right. Hello, Tiffany West. How are you?
Hi, ladies. I'm great. How are you? Thank you, Jessie. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
I'm amazed at this, that what we're creating here, and it did. It started with Cindy's vision, and then we've all had our own individual visions. And the fact that we were just all brought together was no accident.
Mhm.
And I just feel blessed and blossomed. I just feel like I'm blossoming, I'm healing, like Cindy said, and it's an ongoing journey. There's no period at the end of that. But I'm here for it. And I couldn't be more excited to be here today, meeting you, Coach Love, and just honored to be a part of this group.
Excellent. Now, Tiffany, you have a secret weapon backstage. Who do you have back there waiting?
I've got Miss Safiya. Her and I met a couple of months ago. Well, actually, probably more than that now, but we just had a connection that was really undeniable to begin with. And we just been rolling with each other and holding each other accountable ever since then. And so when I met Cendie and heard about this opportunity, she was the first person that came to mind. And so I asked her if she wanted to be a part of it, and she said, of course. And so here she is with us too.
Accountability. Oh my goodness. That is a dirty word. But you know what is a real big part of being healed? Sophia, pick up there for us, please.
Okay, well, first of all, when Tiffany told me about Cendie and what she was doing, I was excited because I had just wrote, like, I had this vision for myself and what I wanted to do in the world. And so
Mm-hmm.
I had, like, literally just journaled about it maybe some weeks prior, that I wanted to be talking about adverse childhood experiences and be a mental health advocate and help to heal the world. So when she told me, I was like, oh my God, right? So then she connected me with Cendie, and it was just like magic. I was like, this is it. Cendie was like, what you think? I was like, yeah, my body is like, yeah. It was expansive, and it was like a yes. And the rest is history.
Wow. So you spoke something into existence. It feels like God had already answered your
Oh,
prayer.
man. Mm,
Wow. That is amazing.
yeah.
Now, Cendie, can you please explain what exactly is the Connection Committee?
I don't want to influence how Jessie, Tiffany, and Safiya are going to explain it, but I'm going to tell y'all how I feel about the connection committee or what it is. But then I want to hear like from Tiffany or Jessie, because I brought y'all in, and the only way to know is if y'all see it the way I see it is to hear how you say it. So let me first
Okay.
say, like I said at the top, they're the heart and soul. Like I was looking for people who were using words to empower others, and God presented the three of them to me. So I
Wow.
was like, it's the words that they were choosing to use as they were going through the process, the ownership that once I had a chance to get to know each of them, that we took together. I was like, okay, we started off exchanging information with each other. We came with our textbooks. Like, here's what I know. Like, I know how to do XYZ. And that was great. Like, that started the connection. And I
Mm-hmm.
think at some point, Erica, it revealed to me that information gives us something to think about.
Okay.
Connection gives us something to live for.
Ooh, that is
Mhm.
so good.
And
That
that's
is
how this evolved. And so the heart and the soul of it is connection. Somebody already commented that connection is the cure for addiction, right? Like
yes, it is. Yes, it is.
right.
Yes,
So
it is.
that's how this evolved, and they ended up being just natural fits to where we were trying to go, and the fact that we could do this. That's okay. I'm gonna stop. You got my explanation of it. I'm curious to know what they were saying.
All right, Jessie, you're up.
Wow. Yes, all of the things that Cendie just said, and the fact that we could talk to each other about our stories and also about how connection is so important for people as they're starting to learn about what adverse childhood experiences are. Cendie came to us one day and she said, I did a presentation and people wanted to talk and I didn't have space right then. We need a place for people to come and talk about their adverse childhood experiences. So we committed. We committed to be those people that would be there for people when they want to talk more about what ACEs are, how they can move through them, and transform them into the healing process that we have all experienced, because we're all on that journey together. And so we met weekly, very systemically, and we just experienced that connection every time. So that's my
Excellent.
experience.
Tiffany, how do you explain the connection committee?
Our heart and soul, like Cendie said, it just feels like we've known each other, all of us ladies, for so long. And the connection that we had in the beginning was just so natural and organic and authentic. It was just really undeniable. And we just continue to just exchange with one another and share our stories, like Jessie said. And even on a bigger picture, I think that, we are kind of the voice and the heart out here wanting to get this message out that connection is cure, like Cendie says. And in order to do that, we have to connect with people outside of our circle. And so, we're all connected. Everything is connected. There is no separation on this universe, on this planet. All of us are connected. So living in a world that seems to be very disconnected right now, that would make sense why things are off and things don't feel right, because we're needing to bring that connection back. And so I think that's where the healing is going to start. We have to start that connection with ourselves, and we can then be whole and healing so that we can connect and be open for the connection with others. And so I think that us on this mission to really get people connecting and sharing their stories and their experiences as children that are impacting them today, whether they're realizing it or not, is so vital for healing. And I'm just excited to be a part of it.
Excellent. Sophia, you have the last leg. And so this is where, you hit the home run. And so I'm going to add a little bit more to your question. I want to know, what is the connection committee in your eyes, and how do your individual talents fit into that picture?
Okay. Well, for me, just having the group of women where I feel like comfortable and safe and seen and heard, that is so powerful, being on this journey. And then just outside of our meetings, when I like read something or see something, it's like I'm texting it to them in the group. It's like I want to share that with them, and to be able to have that like sisterhood,
Mm-hmm.
be able to just share that, and for others to be on that journey with you in healing the world. I mean, I think that is so powerful. So for me, it's that security, that love, that connection, the healing journey together. I think that is what makes it so powerful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Tiffany, this question popped up, and I think you can answer it, because in some way, all of us have an ACEs score. Could you explain what ACEs are and how that score really works? Because RV is asking, are you all survivors of adverse childhood experiences? And so there is a standard that people measure by, but it's actually developed beyond the original creators.
Yeah, yes, I can speak for myself. I am a survivor of ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and I believe Cendie, Jessie, and Safiya are as well. That's why we connect so well, and we're here healing ourselves and healing each other and putting that energy out into the world. And the way I understand ACEs is, what you experienced as a child that was challenging,
Mm-hmm.
and it dysregulated your nervous system. So any kind of trauma that was unique
Mm-hmm.
to your system and how it affected you. Like two people could go through the same thing and not be impacted the same way. But really, what I see ACEs as is really getting to know how it affected you and how it's impacting your system your state of being, and then the way you're showing up in the world and your relationship with other people. I also believe that you can have a high ACEs score or a low ACEs score and still have a lot of healing to do. There is no comparison to trauma. Trauma is trauma at the end of the day. So whether you've got a high score or a low score, to me, it just reveals that even when there's not as much physical trauma that happens in your childhood, there could have been a lot of unspoken emotional and mental trauma that affected you in a way that impacts you and your brain development as you grow older.
Excellent, excellent. Jessie, I'm curious what your take is and what your ACEs score is. Also, tell us a little bit about your experience and what is it you bring to the Connection Committee?
Okay. Well, yes, I have an ACE score. And depending on how you interpret the questions on the ACEs survey, it can change, but it's pretty high. I think that the ACEs study came out a while ago, and it opened the door for us to all start to think about what we experienced as children and whether or not, in fact, it was adverse, because some of us had more support than others. And we don't really know what the impact is until we have challenges in our lives. So my ACE score showed up for me in a lot of different ways: in divorce, in having cancer. And these are all the connections that ACE scores show us later on in life. It shows about our well-being, about our health. So that's how I've looked at my ACEs, and I still look at my ACEs. The most impactful part of understanding your ACEs is how it impacts your relationships, because ACEs happen in a relationship or in relationships, and they are also healed in relationships. So understanding that helps to transform them into the freedom of healthy relationships, which finally, after you do the work, you get to experience. And I think, this committee, we talk about that. We talk about what it's like to show up and have to really understand what boundaries are and what all these emotions are that we feel in relationships and how to manage them.
That's really good. I wanted us to tackle this question that came up in the chat. And the person said, don't we all have ACEs? And we all have childhood trauma to some extent. Cendie, I think that's valid, but I also think it drains the life out of recognizing the impact of a person who has a score of a 10 versus a score of a 1.
Well, I'm gonna do my Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton used to do this, like, whatever, before he asked, he like put his mouth on. I'm gonna do my Bill Clinton. I'm gonna do my Bill Clinton. Harry's models. If I were having coffee with Harry, I would say yes. Harry, you're absolutely right. And if I wanted to be, if I wanted to sound all like scientific-y, I would say, as a matter of fact, if we were to line 10 people up in this coffee shop, chances are that 6 of them have at least one ACE.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But when you think about the ACE categories, that one ACE could be sexual abuse when you were 5. Or it could be mommy and daddy got a divorce when you were 5.
Mm-hmm.
As you can tell, basically what the science is telling us is, and also to what Tiffany alluded to earlier and what Jessie gave us a real life example to, it is how your body is going to respond to that particular event in your life later on. Is it going to show up as cancer? Because we now know, because of ACEs, cancer happens to be one of the 8 leading causes of deaths that can be associated with too much toxic stress in the body as a child. So Jessie told us that real time. So from a physiological standpoint, it was cancer, but from an emotional one, guess what? She said it involved divorce. That's how ACEs showed up in her life later. So to Harry's point, yeah, they're very, very common. And so because they're very, very common, this is all the more reason why we want to use the connection committee to sensitize people to the consequences of them. The whole
Okay.
point around the conversation is to say we were children who did not ask for the trauma, right? It happened.
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
as a result, we are now adults that have to try to heal from that particular trauma. And it could be healing from a disease that's caused by that trauma, or it could be I can't get along with anybody because I didn't have any emotional development when I was growing up. That's how my ACE showed up, right?
Okay.
I told you on one of your shows that we were taught to use our tongue and our words to
Mm-hmm.
hurt people, remember? And so
Yes.
that's what I used in my adulthood. It was outdated.
Wow, that's so powerful. Sophia, can we address what Maddie is saying here? Men are too afraid most times to lower their pride and preconceived notions and admit they need to help soften things. I'm sorry, to help sorting things out. How would you address that, the first part of that?
That, well, yeah, I mean, that's the way society kind of grooms men. I remember hearing this man telling his 5-year-old son when my oldest daughter was like in first grade or kindergarten, man up, right? Because he was having strong emotions. He was told to man up at 5 years old. So I think that that's something that society has conditioned men to not even go there and not even feel what's coming up for them. And I think that that's a big problem. So,
Hmm. So, what is a good way to get men to not feel emasculated? Because Maddie says right here, or they will feel emasculated sometimes by assuming they are just supposed to. But I think the rest of his comment is somewhere. But I guess basically suck it up. They're supposed to suck it up. Oh, he says be tough.
mm, yeah. I think a lot of education with, as far as boys, when they're young, allowing them to be with their emotions and be with their strong emotions and hold space for those, and let that be okay. I mean, I don't see why, there has to be a difference. Sure, girls are more in tune. I have a 7-year-old. They're more in tune with their emotions, but I mean, I have also a 7-year-old nephew and he cries a lot. And of course, it's like, oh, you're a boy. Stop that. But how about we stop doing that? How about we start
Yes, like
letting,
let's let the boys be a boy and not
yes,
being a boy does not make him less of a human being.
no, let him have his big feelings, because then what happens is they grow up to be men, and then in relationship with women, they're stonewalling.
Mhm.
They're not being able to engage because they don't know what to do with these emotions. So it's a big problem. It really is. But I would start there with the boys when they're little, 0 to 6. That's when that emotional brain is growing, developing, and that's the time to hold space for them and their emotions, and
Mm.
let them cry, please.
Yes. Let them cry and let them be full human beings.
Mhm.
I'm going to make a shameless plug for myself. I definitely focus on positive masculinity, have a whole campaign, it's global. Um, and one of the things we do is help men be able to define themselves beyond being a provider, beyond being a protector, and beyond sexual conquest. They need to understand their intrinsic value. That said, if you cannot identify your emotions and connect them with your intellect, then it is very difficult to understand your intrinsic value. So that's my 2 cents on that. I'm curious, Tiffany, what do you really want to accomplish with the connection committee?
I just feel it's my soul's calling and mission to really just start having the conversation and talk about trauma. Some people don't even like the word because it just makes them uncomfortable, and it brings up things, and it triggers is a really big word out there, but it triggers you, and it creates an emotional charge, and we're just never taught what to do with it at that point. It's just like you just kind of skip over it, stuff it down, and you just keep it moving and man up, like we were just talking about women too. And what I want to accomplish, I want to normalize it. It's normal to have experienced a traumatic event. It's normal the way your body reacts to it, even if somebody else did react to it the same way. And it's also normal to implement healing techniques that you could administer for yourself, and you can really rebalance yourself and re-get yourself back into a system of healing and prospering and blossoming. And I just want to let people know that you just don't have to live with it. I just think that's unacceptable. I know for me, my trauma showed up in chronic pain and a lot of illness and history symptoms that doctors couldn't help me with. And medication was not the solution for me. I really had to go deeper and really look at where I truly needed to be healed and what my body was expressing. And I want people to know they don't have to live with the pain. They don't have to be suffering. It's not because it was passed down to your genes, so you don't have a choice and you don't have a say. You absolutely have the power to shift what's going on in your body and in your relationships and in your life. It just takes education and being informed, and then it takes doing the work. And that's what we're here to do, is to hold space so people can feel safe enough to feel. The men as well. I mean, emotions don't have any gender. If you're human, you have emotions. That's what you were given. And you get to handle them the same way, whether you're male or female, and you get to care for them and nurture yourself and replenish yourself with what you need so that you can heal and you can thrive and live your best life. And that's what I hope to accomplish, is to get that word out and hold up space for people to support them to be able to get to that and break through some of those misconceptions.
Let's hashtag that. Emotions don't have a gender. That is priceless. I am using that one. That was a good one, Tiffany.
Erica. Yeah.
Jessie, you are tasked daily as a transformation coach with giving people techniques and practical ways to make this transformation. Give us some very specific tips. How can we get this done?
Wonderful question. I wanted to kind of tie this to what Tiffany just said, because one of the things that happens when we talk about our ACEs to someone who is going to listen and hold space is we do what we needed when the ACEs happened. We actually are present for someone, and in a safe way. And we are saying, whatever happened, it really did happen, and you're going to be okay because I'm with you. Which is what, if you're a child and you have an adverse childhood experience of abuse, neglect, you don't feel seen. You feel lost. And that is why it's such a hard thing for people to manage. So a transformational coach holds space for someone, stays present, honors their emotions, and listens carefully to how they're feeling and where they want to go so that they feel seen and heard. The thing that with ACEs is oftentimes there's a secret that something happened that we don't want to talk about. And in my case, I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and this was just not talked about. We are in a different time now. And everything was, quote unquote, pushed under the rug. And guess what? It stayed there. And it caused a lot of problems because people just held on to those experiences and thought there was something wrong with them. And that builds shame. So when you're able to talk about what happened to you in a safe space without judgment, that's where the transformation just begins right there. And from there, it's authentic. There's not a prescription. There's not a specific steps that you can follow. It's really about being with someone and with yourself and being able to hold those emotions and feel them and let them go through your system. as well as realize that you're going to be okay, right?
Right.
You're still here. And another kind of overarching view of this is reparenting people, because what was missing for a lot of children is a parenting piece. Not to blame parents. Parents did the best they could with what they knew how to do. And one of my personal goals is to break the cycle, to help parents of young children understand that what they're having issues with their children are often their own ACEs that have been healed, and they're just being projected onto their children. So
I love it. I feel like you are calling Safiya to the table, just kind of echoing her expertise in this, because her specialty is self empowerment. She is a wellness coach, and we got to do the work. Okay. We first have to give ourselves permission and understand I don't need someone else's permission to, number one, have these feelings, and number two, fix who I am, or fix how it is that I'm feeling. Because sometimes, don't you see people trying to wait for someone else's permission to be okay? We have to practice that trauma. I see that so often. So, Safiya, tell us how we empower ourselves to
So,
get beyond.
yeah. So you first have to come back home to yourself, and that's what I discovered. And I had like just like a 1 on the ACEs score, but then there's something called extended ACEs. So it kind of goes beyond the 10 questions. So as I trained in something called emotional freedom technique, which is a mind body healing tool that I use. And so that's why I learned when I was doing my research on the extended ACE. So with the extended ACE, I was bullied. And so then that, something had to take into consideration of me being bullied. And then, growing up in like an area that there's like violence, that's something, so I grew up in an area where, let's just put it this way, like my first boyfriend was murdered. So that kind of causes some issues. And then, having parents who grew up traumatized in violent homes, so I'm like the voice of the kids, and what happens when you don't heal your stuff, it bleeds to your kids, right? And so there's a such thing as intergenerational trauma. So I would consider myself a product of that. But with that being said, society conditions and programs us to, get the education, get the good job, get married, all of those things that look really great on paper. And so I did all of those things, and yet I was left feeling hopeless, helpless, and worthless. And it was like, what is going on? So I remember saying, God, please help me. Like, what, right? And then a message came in and said, master yourself. And it was like, well, what does that mean? Master yourself. And it took a little while for me to understand what that meant. But I had spent my whole life being attuned to other people, because this is what I learned. When you have two parents who were traumatized, who are very meek and weren't allowed to speak out, you get trained to be that way. So I attuned out to everybody else, meeting everybody else's needs, and I completely abandoned myself. I didn't know who I was. I had absolutely no sense of self, no sense of value, no sense of worth, right? So on my journey, I have learned through mastering myself, which is coming back into myself, into my body, developing a relationship with myself, right? Which includes being there for my emotions, processing my emotions, affirming myself, nurturing myself, just taking care of me. That's what self-empowerment is, coming back to yourself. And so because I've done that, my brother mentioned today, he said, what you're doing is not like a Kareem. And I said, I know, I'm a cycle breaker, right? Because I've
Wow.
come home to myself. So when I did that, I can be fully expressed as my real true self, not the conditioned program self that I learned from, my parents who did the best they could, bless them, but who were highly traumatized. So that's self-empowerment, coming back home to yourself.
Very, very interesting. I love that. I love that. Cendie, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? You got
I don't need to say nothing, Coach. They didn't say it all. Like, I'm just sitting back here like, I told you so. I told you, now let me stop. It warms my heart. Like, it warms my heart to just hear how different, how diverse our formulas are when it comes to healing. All of us have different ACE scores, right? But it wasn't the number that necessarily connected us. It was what we needed and what we didn't get to what we could now create as a result of where we were in our life this season. So my heart is full because one of the people said that it could be dangerous for like non-clinical people to do this. I'm gonna tell you right now, I ain't no clinician, and you don't need to be there. You don't need, what is it? You don't have to be
A therapist.
a therapist to be therapeutic, right? I needed connection. I had done the same walk that Safiya had done. I went to school, I got the grades, I got the job, I got the husband, I got the baby, I got the divorce, I lost the job, I filed bankruptcy. So all of that started happening. This is not what they said was going to happen. All I had to do was go to school and get a degree, and life was going to be dandy. That is no. If you left and your template did not include how to set a schedule for yourself, guess what you're going to struggle with in adulthood? Organization. Unless you like had some sort of resilience just come out of nowhere. Guess what? If you left home and you didn't see healthy examples of opposite sex relationships or even same sex relationships in the household, guess where you're going to struggle when you get ready to start dating? In your relationship. So I think when people learn about ACEs, you learn your default, like connection. That's our default. And if you try to send a kid out into the world as an adult and they haven't had those connections, no matter if your score is 0 or 10 or 10 plus, some pieces of your life are going to feel really broken and you're not going to know where to look. ACEs tells you where to look. And that way you can at least like not blame yourself so much. Start there. So like, that's what we do. On my side as being the messenger of this group is to help people see like, there's nothing wrong with you. It is what happened to you. It's the template and it's okay because now check out the support system behind door number 3, the emotional care coach, and behind door number 2, you have the transformational coach. So we let people know that you can pick yourself up and go. And so I think that that's what these ladies just basically said in their own respects. And that's what the connection committee feels like to me.
I love it. I love it. Jessie, what happens when people start to connect with the wrong things? And I'm going to tell you some specifics, what I mean. It is my belief that we are going to connect to something. We are going to plug into something. We're going to plug into another person. They might be healthy or unhealthy. We're going to plug in to drugs. We're going to plug into alcohol. We're going to plug into work. We're going to plug into church. And, and you're going to get a currency running through your veins somehow, some way, because we as humans are made to connect. So tell us about what happens when we get plugged into something that's unproductive.
Wow, that's such a powerful part of this process, right? Yes, we all have unmet needs, right? And some of it comes with pain. So the different ways that we can medicate ourselves, we might have bodily pain, we might have emotional pain that turns into bodily pain, comes from that need for connection. So, for me, I grew up in a home where alcohol was the drug of choice.
Mm.
And it was in my community. It wasn't just in my home. It was very formal and a very easy thing to do, right? Have cocktail hour. It became part of my practice very early on because I saw it being done by adults who cared about me. And nobody said, go drink, but it was what I saw. So depending on your experiences, you're going to plug into what looks like it's normal. It looks like it's okay. And that word okay is a really interesting word or expression because it's not okay, right? A lot of things that we experience as children are not okay. A lot of our relationships were not okay, but when you're a child, you don't know what's okay or not. Mm-hmm. So I spent 30 years working as a speech therapist and going into people's homes. And one of the first things that happened when I realized my adverse childhood experiences was I saw a lot of things going on in homes that were not okay.
Mm.
And people didn't know that they were not okay. And because the society, the culture in our towns thought it was okay, it was really hard for people to accept that there could be something different. So relationships, I've had parents tell me how they don't know how to negotiate. They don't know how to have a good fight. They don't know how, one would say, I go and grab the bottle of booze. And the other would say, I lock myself in the room, and the kids are left with that. Right. Mm. And I, this is real story, of 3 and 4 year olds that I used to go visit on a regular basis. And I had to be the one at that point to say, guess what? There is another way to do this. I'm here to tell you that. And nobody was going to tell them that. They didn't have anybody in their circle that was going to change that. So knowing there's something different that can happen, you have to trust that. You have to have a higher power to think about what you really, really want to happen in your life. If you want to have a healthy, happy marriage and you're divorced, you got to do that work. You got to figure out why you had that divorce. And that's where ACEs comes through. You want to have a healthy relationship with your child. There's a whole lot of stuff coming up around children and parent wounds that get transferred from generation to generation. We've got to notice that. It's just not the way it is. It's not normal. It is common. Mm-hmm. But we get to choose where we want these relationships to go.
I love how the show is progressing, and we're just calling things to existence, because I want us to just gaze on this picture. I want us to gaze on this picture. The father is still carrying the ACEs, and he is passing them on almost as if they're a tradition to his son. And I don't care how many times he hits his son, it's not going to remove the pain and the ACEs from his back. It's not going to happen. Family, I want us to have a place to go, and I want us to support this work. We are going to take just a 1-minute break, but take a look at this video because we need to support ACEs Matter. They're doing the work. I'll see you on the other side.
If you have a birthday coming up, or maybe you'd just like to do something for the greater good, please consider starting a personal fundraiser on Facebook and selecting ACEs Matter as your cause. Need a reason? Well, we have 3 just for you. ACEs Matter helps families in need cover the cost of mental health services. ACEs Matter hires local contractors and even stay-at-home parents who need flexible work schedules. We care about humanity, and ACEs Matter provides free training and education to those who've been affected by childhood trauma. It's easy to set up a donation campaign from your Facebook account. From your phone or internet browser, type or search www.facebook.com/fundraisers. Select nonprofit, search for ACEs Matter, type in how much money you'd like to raise, choose an end date, give your fundraiser a catchy title, edit the default description if you'd like, then click Create. Congratulations. Now you can invite your friends, share on your timeline, and raise money for a great cause. For every ACE story told, an ACE can be prevented. 2 heartbeats from our house to yours.
ACEs Matter is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. EIN 85-124-6674.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. I want us to try to tackle this question. Sean says, a professional clinician has to be accountable and transparent. I recommend a systematic psychotherapist. So tell me, do you believe that only a professional, and Cendie, you addressed this, but do you believe that we need to push towards a professional when it comes to ACEs?
I
And that's systemic, I apologize, but go ahead.
No. And either one of the ladies, y'all tag on to this, but my professional opinion is yes. Like, one of the things that brought me to understanding my inner healing, if you will, or breaking the generational chain, was me going to get therapy. So I sought out a professional that I knew I could share things with, that she would not repeat them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it started by me telling my story with a trusted professional. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But to this gentleman's point, I found out about the ACE study at a copy machine. There was no therapist around me to receive me scoring myself a 9 at the time. Somebody left the quiz at a copy machine, which is how I learned about the ACE score. It would be months before I realized that me finding that quiz on the copy machine led me to receive my therapy some months later. So hands down, yes to that. We are not therapists, as we said on the earlier call. Like, we each have our own collective experience with ACEs. And as we go out on tour to support and help people, we make it really clear that you should seek a medical professional's advice. Mm-hmm. We're telling you that this is our formula based on all the money we've spent trying to figure out what's going on with my insides and getting to doctor's appointments, and they have no idea, telling you, oh, you're just stressed or you're fine. But really, it was all that stress. So we're just sharing with you what it's been like for us as we've addressed our own individual childhood adversities. Like, here's our formula. I hope that answers. I hope that answers your question.
I'm going to do some pushback because I'm going to say, yes, and we have to have a 2-pronged approach.
Yeah.
Even with physical healing, you have to do the work. You need partners in that, and then you have to have enough knowledge to know that there is an issue. I believe ACEs Matter is educating the layperson to understand the difference between a mole that is harmless and, oh my gosh, you have skin cancer, because there seems to be a cancer of the spirit, of the soul. We need to have a better salve for the unseen wound than drugs and alcohol. And it seems like that's what we're doing. We cannot act out our violence and our pain on our loved ones and believe that that's going to go away. So although you may need to see a therapist of some sort, you cannot wait for the therapist to tell you. I'm telling you, there's no therapist coming to knock on your door. And thank God that Cendie got something from the copy machine. But what if nobody's ever standing at the copy machine? We can't wait for that to happen. So we have to have some personal responsibility. We have to start educating ourselves, and we have to hold our feet to the fire. You have to be accountable. Ooh, there's that dirty word. Shame on me. Shame on me. Okay.
I want to say, leave the screen like that, but I don't know if you remember the movie that said, "If you build it, they will come." It was like a
Yeah.
very small movie. That's us, right? Like some people don't even know that they may be going through things because of what happened in their childhood, whether it's physically or mentally. And so for us, we're bringing awareness to the conversation. So it'll be up to that person to decide like if they want to get professional help. But at least we could do is educate, and like that's what we want to do as a part of this tour, is to bring people to awareness that your oil may need changing if it's been putting along.
Right. And we can start to begin to teach about self-healing. You know, there are things that you can do for yourself. So that's magnificent. Tiffany, you have a question here. I'll let you tackle this.
Hello, this question is for Tiffany. Can you tell me how you can create awareness of your emotions when you're not even sure how to recognize what they are? Yes. How can you articulate the feeling that the emotions are bringing, both mentally and physically? I know for me, this is a really good question. That was really hard for me in the beginning. I remember when I started getting help and working with coaches and therapists, when they would ask me how I was feeling, it made me mad because I didn't know. I just know I didn't feel good. Right. So to be able to articulate that took a practice of creating and building my emotional intelligence. And how that started for me was listening to my body. That was like the main thing for me. If I just didn't feel right and I didn't know what emotion I was feeling, I know I kind of felt butterflies or knots in my stomach, or I had a pain in my head and, a headache, or I felt tight in my chest, or I felt like I couldn't really speak. My throat felt like it was clogged up. So I just started listening to my body without trying to articulate anything, but just becoming present with the fact that I was feeling unpleasant. I just wasn't feeling balanced and I wasn't feeling well. And by me building and creating that connection between myself and my own body and the sensations I was feeling, over time, my body started to feel safe enough and trust that it could reveal more. And for me, that's when I started to understand, oh, this nervousness that I feel in my stomach, it's a combination of excitement, it's a combination of anxiousness, and it's a combination of fear. I've learned that those are all emotions I feel. And I learned that because when I get really scared or nervous, my stomach starts to bubble up. And so just sitting with that and being with that over time, it took practice of me actually having to take my mind, bring it back into my body. I would always put my hands on my stomach and just tune in and say, I just don't feel good right now. I feel a nervousness or I feel an anxious and it's in my body. I didn't try to figure out why anymore because that was taking me down a rabbit hole of frustration. And then I would feel more disconnected from myself. So the simplest way that I can put it is to just become present and aware that you're feeling something. You don't have to quite articulate it. You don't have to know what it is. Our precious brains, they want to figure it all out and fix it for us. But when it comes to emotions, you don't fix them. You feel them. And that's the scariest part when we're not taught how to do that. And when we're used to being numb to it and we're used to stuffing things under the rug and moving on, right? It's just like, no, just bringing it back and creating enough space within yourself to say, okay, I'm feeling something right now. And I'm just going to sit with myself to comfort this, not for it to go away, but just so that I can build this connection with myself. And what's funny about that, when you do that and you practice it more and more and more regularly, the emotion you give it space to move, because emotions are just energy. The word emote is energy in motion. So when we're stuffing them down because we don't quite know what to do with them, or we're resisting them or denying them or trying to fight them or distract ourselves from feeling them, which is what most of us are taught to do, it's an inherent reaction. It's just like learning this new tool. What if I just become present and I just let my brain know that nothing is wrong in this moment? I'm just feeling uncomfortable and I can hold space for that. And so one really simple technique that I use that I learned from a coach that I'm working with is called the SAFE method. First, you have to see it. That's what the S stands for. So if you're feeling uncomfortable, let's say you're feeling anxious, I see that I feel anxious. And I just put my hand on my chest and I just leave it that simple. I'm feeling anxious. That must be really hard. That's what I tell myself. It's scary. I don't know what to make of this right now. You just get real with what's going on without trying to think yourself out of it. And then the A in that is affirming. I feel anxious and I am okay feeling anxious. It's okay that I feel this way. Of course you do. You feel this way. There's this going on in your life that's creating this feeling of, uneasiness. Let me be here to support myself. And then the F is to feel it. Then you start to just recognize what sensations do come up in your body. When you start tuning in, your body will start to become more prevalent with showing you what that is. You might not feel anything at first. If you feel numb, you can just call that out. I feel numb.
Mm-hmm.
And then the E is expressing. And then you get to express it whatever way that is. I know for me, I like to get outside in nature. I like to take a nap. I like to take a bath. I like to walk, move my body, shake it off. Or sometimes I just like to curl up and watch Netflix. You'll learn that the more present you become with yourself. I hope that answers the question.
Excellent. I love it. I love it. Safiya, help me tackle this. Many battles was fought centuries ago. Do we need more crying boys to fight battles?
That's so funny. I see his name, and it looks like he is from the same tribe as my husband, which is Nigerian.
Yeah, he is Nigerian.
Oh yeah. So I already know, like me and my husband have talked about that, and I understand. Again, there is a such thing as the balance between the masculine and feminine. We all have both masculine and feminine energies. And so what I've learned that there is a such thing is a sacred divine masculine man, right? So he leads, right? He makes the decisions. He's powerful, but he also feels. He's kind, loving, caring, and can hold space for his own emotions and others. That's a powerful man right there. So that's what I would like to say to that. I think that people think that crying, oh, that's just feminine. But having the balance of the two is a powerful man that will be ready for battle. So that's what I would say to that.
Wow. Excellent. Excellent. And Jessie, I would like you to add your 2 cents to that as well.
Thanks. Yeah, I had a lot of things come up for that.
I could tell in your face.
Oh, yeah. Safiya, that was beautiful because the whole person is what you just talked about. And I believe if we have whole people that can manage their emotions, not just have them, right? Because what Tiffany said is once we get to process those emotions and let them go through our bodies, they don't have as much control over us. We are able to manage them. And so we're not talking about crying men. We're not talking about men going out and crying on the battlefield. My prayer is that we don't need to have a battle when we have whole people. When we have people who are complete and feel regulated and are aware of their emotions and can manage them, we don't have to fight. We can have conversations. We can talk to each other. We can solve problems together. So that's where I was going with that, because I heard that and this whole idea of men and battle and war, and I'm done with it. I feel like when we have 2 people that are aware of their masculine and feminine sides and their emotions, and they're more complete and they're more able to stay connected. Yay!
Absolutely. Absolutely. It occurred to me. Men have tear ducts, right? they have tear ducts and they're supposed to be used. What other function would we say, oh no, you are a man, you cannot use this? No. You cannot use this part of your body. What would we tell men don't use their fingers? Would we tell men not to blink? I mean, what else?
I was about to say I ain't touching that question, but now that you, I wasn't gonna touch it at first. I don't know where she's going with that, but I am not gonna
Oh
touch
my gosh. No, I'm just saying it boggles my mind how it is that we in so many societies want men to be less human.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Just because of the stigma of them being a man.
Exactly. It's like, why are we trying to help a handicap men? It's awful. Just because they are a male does not make them less of a human being, you know. So this is what I'm saying. I want them to go ahead and use their tear ducts. It's fine. It'll be okay.
Well, use your tear ducts and your tool kit. So
Yeah.
since we're emasculating things, the whole conversation with us is like, we're gonna give you some tools for your toolkit. Tiffany just dropped off a couple. Safiya dropped off a couple. Jess, so it's tools to put in your toolkit. Your tool belt can't hold everything all at once in one season, but you pick the tools that'll work for you in this season. Maybe it's getting in touch with your body. Maybe that's the one I'm going to work on. I'm going to try to see if I can listen to my body this time. And you gradually add different tools to your tool kit or your tool belt so that when it's time for the tear ducts to let out, you got the tools for it. That makes sense. Like, we just want to give people the tools. We want to give people the tools.
I love it. Tiffany.
I just wanted to say, I think it too comes down to just redefining what strong is or what strength means. I think we have a definition for men and women. I mean, we got people strong in the name of burning themselves out to be successful or make all this money or run these companies or live this life to check off the boxes that somebody else set the standard for, but it's not aligned with who you are. So, redefining what strength looks like, and that's for the individual, but also as a society too. I think it's sexy when men cry and they're vulnerable and they let that represent strength to me. I don't see weakness in that whatsoever. So it's just like we get to redefine some of these things that have just kind of just been put in there for us to accept as normal. And we don't have to accept it as normal. We get to decide, what strength looks like when you are aligned with the healthy masculine and the healthy feminine and you're a whole person. What does strength look like for you then? And what does that mean for you? You get to use your ducks. You get to use everything God gave you.
I need to add a little caveat to Tiffany's point. We also have to teach women as young women how to respond to that, because us too, we were conditioned to, like, you don't want no man to cry. He's not going to save you, right? Like, that was the tutoring that we got. That was what was on our template. So we perceive that as young women as having a weak man. So we got some work to do on our end as women if we want men to start opening up to us, because, right, we may not have those tools to know what to do if we see him crying, and we may say the wrong thing and risk re-traumatizing. The last point I want to make on that is for anybody with emotions, which would be pretty much all of us, it is never about the other person. It's always about you. So, man, even if you get a woman that does not respond in the way you think she should respond, that ain't about her. It's about you. Because it's 8 billion people in the world. You are likely going to run into somebody that's going to see if you can be triggered today. And so how you respond to that. So yes, it would be nice if everybody was trained on how to respond, but the truth is that's not the case. So the best thing you can do is what Tiffany, Jessie, and Safiya all said, is you start the inner work. You start the inner work, and now you got like your armor on. It's like a superpower. Like you just knock them out as they come. I'm telling you, last thing I'm gonna say, I promise. I was vibrating low in the last 48 hours. And guess what I know now, because I've done the work of ACEs? I know what resentment feels like in my body. I can identify. I know exactly what my goals. I'm going to eat. I ain't going to leave. I'm going to veg on TV. Like, now I know when I feel resentment, these are the behaviors that normally follow. If I wasn't doing the work, now I wouldn't be able to replace that. So that's a superpower. Say, hey, resentment, you're back.
Come on in. I'm holding space.
I know I deal with you now, That's a power.
All of a sudden I heard Good Morning Heartache start playing in my ear. I did. I heard it. So there is so much work to be done, but the reality is we can only, eat the elephant one bite at a time. Cendie, you have put together this committee that is so focused and so targeted in their area. What I like to really hear is specific action steps on how they're going to accomplish that one or two things that they want to see the connection committee do. I am going to start with Miss Jessie. Jessie, batter up.
Thank you, Coach. I think what the connection committee, as I said earlier, is targeting is to be available to folks when they start their ACEs journey if they want a place to begin.
Mhm.
And I specifically am looking to work with folks on talking about their story, being there for them, helping them see that their story matters, that we all have a story, and that by telling your story, you start the journey because then you can start to identify what happened, where it happened, how it impacted you, and what you want to change. So my focus for the connection committee right now is to offer folks a place to talk about their story. And I've written my story, it's on my website. People have access to it. When I do speaking engagements, everyone says to me, hearing your story has been the most transformational part of this day.
Oh,
So
no.
story is the focus for me.
I love it. I love it. All right. Sophia.
Yes. So for me, it is the title that I'm gonna, because we're gonna be doing a workshop, and it's how exploring how your childhood experiences affect your beliefs, something along
Mhm.
that lines. Um, Years ago when I first learned about beliefs and how they were affecting our lives, I was like, I am going to figure this out. I'm going to figure out
Mhm.
how do you change these beliefs, because we pick up the beliefs either through modeling. So someone shows us something, tells us something happens to us, or sometimes we make up stuff. Okay, I got to give a quick example. I have a daughter, and she's my middle child, and we
Mhm.
were talking today, and she gets jealous when she sees like a friend talking to another friend, right? It makes her jealous. And so what we uncovered is she has a belief that that she's not that important because she has an older sister, she has a younger sister. So this is something that she came up with. Oh, I think you like my sister's better, she's in the middle. This is something that she has developed and came up with, right? So sometimes we can make up our own stuff as well. We can see something and we can perceive, oh,
Mhm.
this is the truth, right? And once you have this belief, right, this is your reality. This is what you see. So you see the world like this through these glasses. You literally see what you believe. And then there's this evidence that says, yeah, that's true. This belief is true, right? Because we have a part of our brain called the reticular activating system that literally filters out everything that doesn't coincide with that belief. So I'm
Mhm.
here to help people to change their beliefs so that they can change their life. That's what I'm going to be doing. Thank you.
Can you drop that in the chat? Reticular activating
Activating system.
system.
Right.
And basically, it enforces a belief that we have, and that is probably the cause for the projection.
It is. It is 100%. 100%.
People are projecting something that is completely false, and it is blocking out all of the other information.
Yes.
Amazing. Amazing. Oh, that was a word. That was a word,
Mhm.
Sophia. Okay, Tiffany.
Yes. So my journey has really been the way ACEs showed up for me was through chronic pain and illness. That was that I call it. Everybody has a wake up call when they're being awakened to a transformation to become more aligned with the truest, authentic version of who they were created to be. And for me, that wake up call was just not feeling good in my body at all, feeling very helpless, feeling very scared, feeling very crippled by the pain, and then seeking outside help and not getting it. And that was the break for me, was when I was just feeling like, if the doctors can't help me, and this is what they're paid to do, this is what they went to school, if they're the gods of my body and they don't know, what do I do now? So, the title of my workshop is going to be The Body Never Lies, because when I look back on my experience, now that I have this awareness and I've done the inner work, my body's been talking to me and communicating to me and trying to lead me in and bring me back home to myself through all of these symptoms. Whereas I saw it as my body breaking down, and I kind of went to war with my body. I was at odds with my body, judging myself really harshly, not treating my body the way that it needed to be treated, and not nurturing myself. And my body was what helped me come into terms of like, okay, this is deeper than just thinking positive, which is all great stuff. This is deeper than just doing mindset work. This is deeper than just changing my diet. All of those things are legs on the table. But those things didn't work when I went to them first. So my focus on this, and what I want to help people start with, is just really tuning in to what they're feeling on a physiological level, and really helping them do the somatic work to be able to move that energy through their body, which will clear their mind and will heal their heart, and then they can start to move forward and process things and build the emotional resilience and the emotional intelligence to be able to regulate themselves. And so everything for me comes back down to the very simple formulas. It's like, are you under stress, and is your nervous system activated? Is your nervous system dysregulated? No matter what it is that's going on, you don't have to compare yourself to anybody else. You'll just know when you don't feel good inside, whether it be emotional, physical, mental. You'll just know, okay, my body's letting me know something's not right here. And that's where I want to really teach people how to listen, how to understand and decode your body language, because it does have a language and it does talk to us on a regular basis. And there's this thing, it's called the top down approach or the bottom up approach. Top down is working with the mind and, getting the mind healthy, and then the body will follow, because the mind and body connection is undeniable. There's no getting away from that. And I started with that top down. And it was effective and it was helpful, but it was like a Band-Aid, because I still wasn't getting through to the root, and I still wasn't healing inside of my body. So now the bottom up approach is really tuning into my body and understanding what sensations I'm feeling, where I'm feeling them, where that energy is, and then just working from that place. And that's what I'll be teaching in the workshop.
That is excellent. Cendie, what a crew.
I was over here feeling it, Jessie. I'm like, I would trust this crew to hold up the table, to be the legs of the table that needs to be held up. Like, each table has 4 legs. Like, I would totally trust this crew holding my table up. Totally.
That is excellent. That is excellent. If you were to give us 3 final thoughts, what might they be?
I'm so glad you asked. It's so interesting that you asked that. So I'm going to tell people to eat pie, P-I-E.
Okay.
I didn't know you were going to ask that, but it just came to mind. So thank you. Here's what we're doing. PIE. When I say P-I-E, it's prevention, intervention, and education, right? So as I said at the top of the call, information gives us something to think about, but connection gives us something to live for. I am obsessed, okay, with solving this problem. And I will do that by way of beautiful people like this that are holding up the conversation in different areas of healing, and by bringing awareness using platforms like yours to let people know. I've seen in the comments, therapy is months behind, right? And we've already professed that we are not therapists, but guess what we are? We're connection. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We're a place for you to take that conversation in a safe way, so that you know that you're not alone. So that's the piece of the pie: prevention, intervention, and education. And the three things that people are going to get out of it is a ton of team building, right? Well, not team building, maybe that's not the word, but the connection is there. And the best thing we can do is start the conversation. Like, we're kind of like the paramedics. I like to say we may be like the paramedics before you get to the hospital. We're going to make sure that you've got the right energies being poured into you. You heard those words. Them words made you feel good, right? Like those are words that I would like plug into here to help me get through this. And this is what these ladies bring to the table. Some really, really powerful words to help people get started on their journey to healing.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I cannot thank the Connection Committee in ACEs Matter enough for bringing their thoughts and their expertise to the Epic Understanding Show. You know what, guys? We are just getting started. We have a relationship with ACEs Matter, and I promise you they have more to share. Tune in for another opportunity to talk with them. So start writing down your questions because this is not it. But until next time, bye-bye for now. You're winning. You're winning. You're winning.